yeah. So then I guess what happened was the band broke up because the singer was a big diva, and I didn't want anything to do with this. And a friend of mine came over to my house and said, "Hey, you got to check this CD out." And it was a copy of the Prodigy. Uh,
Nice.
so and we were listening to it, and we're like, "What is this music?" And I said, "It sounds like punk music, but made by a computer."
Right.
And so that's basically what ended up happening. That's how we kind of got introduced into electronic music, and we went into CD stores and record stores to find more stuff like this, and that's how it all started.
So for reference, how old are you? I'm 43 and I remember, well, I'll be 43 Saturday. And then I remember Prodigy in high school as well, but maybe a little later. Are you around
Yeah,
the same age?
yeah, I'm 40.
Okay. All right. So I'm an old geezer compared to you.
No,
Yeah.
at this point, it doesn't really matter. It's like,
Yeah, exactly. For me, it was kind of Prodigy and like Nine Inch Nails,
yeah,
like those
yeah.
were kind of like that was electronic back in the day for me, I think.
Prodigy, Nine Inch Nails, KMFDM,
Yes.
stuff like that. So I remember
Yeah,
that.
awesome. So when did you learn to DJ then? Was it much later?
No, it was fairly soon after I got into electronic music because a lot of the stuff that we wanted to hear came out first on vinyl before it ever came out on CDs, because DJs were DJing it. So basically, that's kind of where we went. We went to the record stores to find the latest songs that just happened to be on vinyl. So I had vinyls and stuff like that. And I had a friend of mine who was like a wedding DJ, and he had turntables and a mixer and some old records of his. And he said, "Hey, you want to borrow them? You can borrow them for a couple of weeks and stuff, and check them out and try it." So that's how I started.
Very cool. So what equipment are you using now and how like what was the progression of you getting to your setup now, I guess? Several years.
Yeah, it's probably what was that? That was 1997 to now. So whatever the math works out to
Whatever
be.
that math
I'm
is.
not going to think about the math anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it started on two turntables, and then I had bought some CD players, some really smaller, the smaller CDJ ones, and then I went all digital with a computer and a laptop, which made me really nervous because you don't want to bring a laptop into a club.
Right.
And so then I just went straight full CDJs from that point forward.
And when did that transition happen?
Uh, oh, I don't know, late uh, 2010 ish, something like that.
Okay.
When I went full CDJs and stuff like that. So yeah, something around there.
Very cool. So what made you decide to stream? Were you streaming before quarantine or was that a new thing to you?
No, that was 100% totally new. Yeah, it was. We had like shows lined up prior to it. I mean, we were local shows here in San Francisco, Sacramento, and stuff like that. But when the pandemic hit, all the shows just died. So there was
Right.
nothing to do.
Yeah.
And I heard around that people were jumping onto Twitch, and I was like, okay, what is Twitch? Is this like YouTube Live, or what is this stuff? So somebody asked me to. I think it was a Trans Family LA. They were one of the first people to ask me, hey, can you want to jump on this train and DJ for 2 hours in front of a camera? So that was my first like couple streams, was just like going onto these other streams and doing a 2 hour set in front of like a webcam that I just had.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, that was kind of where it all kind of started. And I said, okay, well, this seems pretty fun. We'll just keep it going and see what's going on. So
Yeah. And was your studio set up like that already from the beginning, or was that something that you kind of developed along the way?
like this setup here.
Yeah.
So no,
Like, is
this
that
set, no. So this setup was already here.
okay?
The only things that weren't here were these crazy lights and this
Okay.
light and this camera. So all this stuff wasn't here before. The DJ booth wasn't here before. It was actually over there. Push off to the side and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
none of that was there before. But as Twitch kind of went on, and you move the thing around, you add some lights, buy a new
Yeah.
camera, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Nice. So, how did you come up with your DJ name? Because your real name is Chris.
Yes. So that's a fun story. So it was about it's almost 4 years ago now. Um, I started another music project with two friends of mine. It was Ramsey and Dan. They were coworkers of mine. And Dan was an electrical engineer, so he just kind of came. We were trying to come up with a name. He came up with. We were just thinking about like diodes and stuff like that. And he said, "Why don't we do it? Call us ours Triode?" And I looked it up online. I'm like, "Hey, nobody's using that name. Let's just use that for now, and we'll just go with it." And he's like, "I'm like, yeah, it sounds cool. It's Triode. It's not really used. It's three of us. That sounds cool."
Yeah.
And then about a year into it, Ramsey went off to medical school, and then Dan went off to he went off to work for a startup in New York, or sorry, Boston. And I was just like, okay, great. So Triode is now one person.
Yeah. Party of one.
But yeah, but you know what? I bought the domain name and I got all the stickers made up and the logo's already done. So I'll just leave it.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. So is DJing your full-time gig at the moment?
Mm-mm. No. No, I have a I'm a full-time job as a computer engineer. So
Okay.
that's where I'm at right now. Yeah.
So are you working from home right now, or do you have to go in, or how does that work?
No, I work from home. I work from home, definitely. I mean, we could always work from home. It's just the internet. So why
Yeah.
not?
Yeah, exactly. So for people that have not seen you stream before, and there's probably just like, a handful of them, what kind of music can people expect to hear on your streams? Do you have certain days for certain things, or do you play what you're feeling, or is it always kind of the same feel?
Uh, I guess the common thread is it's always just generally very, very energetic,
Okay.
high energy kind of music. The PPMs do range between about 128 to 138, maybe up to 150. It kind of gets really nuts sometimes, but it's always a lot of very high energy music. That's kind of what I play. So
Uplifting, feel good kind of station.
yeah, there's uplifting. There's some Psy stuff. A lot of big room kind of tracks. I'll even throw, every once in a while when I get into it, I'll just throw in some UK hardcore. You know, uh, it honestly, it does have a sound to it. It has, all across the board, it has a sort of very, very big, high energy, loud sound.
Okay.
Kind of stadium-ish kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Big clubs and stuff like that.
Making us miss the festivals sort of thing.
Yeah, well, yeah, you can call it like a festival sound, basically.
Okay.
That's the feel of it. But if I feel like the uplifting song at that moment has that right moment, has that right feel in the DJ set, that I'll play it.
Awesome.
I don't try not to stay too. I try to stay a little bit narrow into the sound, but I don't try to stay genre wise, because it doesn't. Genres
Okay.
don't make genres are just genres. Just
More about the feel than
Yeah.
the specific genre.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So you kind of answered my question, I think. I would assume you do not plan your sets then.
No, I don't plan my sets. I do plan the first 4 songs generally
Okay.
for every show, only because just I know myself where I'm always nervous right before I go
Really?
every single time. It doesn't matter. It's been this way since high school when we did bands. You'd always get nervous right before
Yeah.
your show, no matter how many times you've done it.
Yeah.
So I've learned that if I just plan the first 4 songs in my head ahead of time,
hmm
I don't feel as nervous, because then I can get into it. And once I get into the first couple songs and
Yeah.
I'm into the groove, then things just kind of go from there. So, but no, I don't plan my sets. I do have generally in my head certain transitions that I always do. Not
Okay.
always do, but like there's certain transitions I know just always work.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'll tend to play like certain songs together because I like how they sound together.
Yeah.
But nothing's really ever planned beyond that.
Okay. Well, that's kind of cool to hear that someone with as many followers as you have and everything still gets a little nervous. It kind of gives hope to people like me and other people watching, probably, that
No,
that's okay.
every single time, I know it's in the nervous tick, because when you get on stage and you go, did I go to the bathroom before I have to go
Right.
on? And you said yes. But then I'm like, why do I still need to go to the bathroom now? Like,
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
literally on in 2 minutes. Why do
It's
I
like, can
just
someone
went?
redeem pee break, please?
Yeah, I just went. Why do I need to do this now? I just what is wrong with my body, myself. And
Yeah,
so yeah, that's the nervous. That's how I know I'm nervous.
that's awesome. So you said you played in bands and everything, and it sounded like you were saying you DJ'd live before quarantine and things like that. Is that
Hmm.
correct? You were in clubs and stuff like that?
Yeah. So a lot of clubs, bigger ones, smaller ones. I played like one festival once,
That's cool.
which
What
was kind of
festival
fun.
was it?
It was called Connection. It was out in Boise, Idaho.
Okay,
Bunch of friends of mine actually threw it. It's like a 3-day, 4-day festival.
that's fun.
And they're a bunch of friends of mine. So, they just said, "Hey, you want to come up and hang out with us?" I said, "Yeah, sure. You want me to bring a USB stick?" So they said, "Yeah, bring a USB stick. You got a slot." And then after that, basically I just hung out with them at the festival for 4 days.
That's awesome. Was it like a trance festival or was it just kind of a
No,
hodgepodge of stuff?
no, it was pretty much hodgepodge of everything. There was psytrance, there was techno, there was bass music, there was like like chill out music, and it was just everywhere. There was like 4 or 5 different stages, so
Man,
it was a fairly big
sounds kind of
festival.
awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. So what has been your favorite stream so far of your own? I know you just hit the huge milestone of 4,000 followers, so I have to assume that is probably at the top of your list.
Yeah, there's been a couple. Uh, I'd say one of my favorite ones was the 3,000 follower stream. Because
And
we got
how
to
long
do
ago was that? Just so people have an
it was
idea.
probably almost like 2 months ago. It was pretty recent, which is
I mean,
funny.
that's insane.
Yeah, no, believe me, that kind of threw me for a loop because I knew I just did a 2,000 follower, and then which was a 12-hour thing, and I was like, okay, that's fine. And then all of a sudden I had to start planning the 3,000 follower show, and I'm like, I just did the 2,000 follower show. What the hell's
Yeah.
going on? And I just hit 4,000 now. So the 3,000 one, we actually took over one of the clubs here in San Francisco. It's called Midway SF.
Oh,
So we
yeah.
did the full production, lights, machines, DJ booth, sound system, everything. Nobody was there except for me
I
and a
was going
couple
to
of
say,
friends. Nobody
yeah.
was there, but we live streamed the whole thing, and I think it was a lot of fun just because it was literally I just took over the entire club and just had it to myself.
Wow.
So it was a lot of fun, and my friends were there, and we were just drinking and having a blast, and
Ugh.
that was cool.
Well, I expect an invite to the 5,000 one.
Yeah, there was quite a lot. New Year's was really cool. The last couple streams. I mean, I know the one where we hit 4,000, that was pretty nuts too. Just because we just had a lot of fun there. We're just a lot of stuff just happened all at once. The 4,000 followers. We got to call Sean Tyus. It was just it was nuts. It was just a ton of fun.
Yeah, that's really cool. So I assume you started then around March or April last year streaming on Twitch. Would that be
Yes.
about right?
Yeah, March. I think March of last year was it's January. February, yeah, March of last year was probably my first couple streams. They weren't. They were. There wasn't schedules. It was just kind of scattered. I think the schedule really kind of kicked in. I don't know, Mayish, June,
Yeah.
May, something like that. So that's when I actually had a schedule.
I mean, did you ever even imagine having 100 followers and now you've got 4,000? It's really mind blowing.
No, it is. I honestly didn't think of that. I remember I remember the day. It was June 6th when I was streaming, and I think it was like 20 people, 30 people on the channel at that point, and I was already really happy because I'm like, that's a lot. That's a big crowd today. This is a big crowd. And then we got a Dave raid that night, and I went from like 30 to like 600 all at once.
Oh, did you just die?
I didn't know what to do. I didn't, because I remember the first thing I saw in the chat room, it was already going like this.
Yeah, you're like, what? Is there a glitch?
I was like, what is going on? I can't read anything anymore. And then I remember the first thing somebody says, like, hey, you got to turn on slow mode. And so I didn't know what that was. So I found the option that says slow mode, and the default option was 30 seconds. So I clicked that, and I said, okay, slow mode's on. And then I saw somebody else like, hey, can you change it to like 3 seconds? And I'm like, well, what do you mean by 3 seconds? So I had to go back and look at it.
Yeah.
And then when I saw it, I was like, oh, okay, I changed it to 3 seconds, and then the chat went like this again.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I honestly, I didn't know what the hell I was doing.
Yeah.
So,
Did you like miss a transition or anything, or were you
oh
like,
yeah, oh yeah,
yeah?
I messed up. I mean, I don't think anybody else. I don't think anybody noticed except for me.
Oh yeah.
When you miss a transition, you know it in your head, but when
Oh yeah.
nobody else really hears it. I don't think. But yeah, I was like the first like 4 tracks after that. I was like, what am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing? Oh my god!
Yeah.
Like, you know.
That is super
So.
cool. So after the Dave raid, have you had any other memorable raids you want to talk about?
Um, yeah, I remember getting one. I got one from Ruben Durand,
Wow.
which was totally surprising because I didn't see that coming. Um, I got two from Dave. That was so I think after a while I made a rule on my channel. So sometimes people will go into the channel and say, "Hey, there's an incoming raid,"
Yeah.
and sometimes it kind of it sort of gets to me, like it's sort of
Yeah.
inside. I'm like, "Ooh," you start to anticipate it a little bit.
Right.
Uh, so I made a specific rule. I said, "Okay, mods, here's what we're gonna do. Nobody ever tell me a raid is coming ever again.
Yes.
In fact, if somebody goes in the channel and says a raid is incoming, delete that message. I don't want to see it.
Yeah.
That way, it's always a surprise. So it's always,
Yes.
if it's 2 people, if it's 7 people, if it's 300 people, it doesn't matter. It's always a surprise, and that's how it is. So, but yeah, so the raid from Ruben was definitely a surprise because I didn't see that coming.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think raids should always be surprises. That's kind of the point of them.
Yeah, they're fun. That's for me. That's the fun, and yeah, they're a little jarring every once in a while because it's like, oh my god, that's like 400 people. Like, what am I doing? So
Yeah. Yeah. So you also produce music. How did you start doing that? Like, what was your time frame for that?
oh, I was producing music before I was DJing actually.
Okay.
So I was in bands. I was writing music already at that point. And then it was sort of this around the same time I discovered electronic music, where we discovered things like there were like demos and stuff like that on the internet. And we were always wondering how the hell does they make music? How do they make music on a computer? So that's sort of how it kind of started. We discovered the Prodigy, and then friends of mine we were messing around with like programs to like write music. They're called trackers at the time, in DOS, and so I was already writing music at that point. And then as we were finding records, we were like, okay, I think I need turntables, and I think I need to get some DJ stuff too. So that's how it all is. That's how it all started.
Very cool. So when did you, I guess, when was your first track released then?
The first track I released, I guess,
Would
well, I
that
guess
have, would that have been under your current name or your personal name or a different name?
no, it's under it's under Triode. The first track was technically, I guess it was Transatlantic. That was on Silent Shores record. That was in 1998. Geez, that wasn't that early. 2018 now? Or was it 17? Something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, it's only a couple years ago. That was the first official release. That's like not that you put it on the internet. It's actually like on a record label, and somebody else does all the work to put it on the internet. That kind of thing.
Right. And then how long does that process take? Like when you're done producing your track and you submit it and everything, about how long does it take for it to go live, I guess, for lack of a better term?
Depends. So
Yeah.
some record labels, it depends on because record labels generally have a schedule. So you once they've signed your record, they'll put you in the marketing schedule. So if they have a lot of records to release, your track might not come out for 4 or 5 months after they've already signed it.
Okay.
I had the like my the remix I did for Super 8 and Tab, that went on Our Mind. That didn't even come out until that came out like 14 months after after I gave it to them.
Whoa.
That was like 14 months after I gave it to them, and it took me like 2 months to write the song. So there was already like there was 16 months between the time I started writing the song and the time that somebody else heard it.
Wow, that's nuts.
So that takes a while. And other tracks, I literally would, after it's signed, it'd come out in like what 6-7 weeks or something like that. So it
Yeah.
depends on the record label.
Okay.
But it's nothing I can control.
Yeah, unfortunately. And then you've had several releases last year and in 2019, right?
Yeah, 2019 I had 7, something like that, 7 official releases.
Wow.
2019, and then 2020 I only got 4 out, or is it 5?
Only.
Something like
Well,
that.
I got 0, so.
It's all good. No, it's all right.
And I listened to several of your songs, and I feel like they stretch the spectrum of trance from like hard trance to progressive and the uplifting vocal stuff. So tell me more about your most recent releases and your inspirations for those. Like, one of the ones I listened to that I really loved is the Nothing Is Real song.
Yeah,
and
nothing.
probably because that had a little bit more of a progressive vibe, which is kind of what I gravitate towards.
Mm-hmm.
But like, what was your inspiration for that song and your other more recent songs that have come out?
So Nothing Is Real. That was with a band from LA named Knock, NOHC. And they actually approached me. I think they heard was it Till We Dance Again? I think they heard Till We Dance Again. And then they approached me. It's like, hey, we work with one of your friends, 10 Steps. My buddy 10 Steps, his name's Brandon. He's also a producer, and he worked on a record with them. So they reached out to me through him and said, hey, we want to work on a record with you. And I'm like, okay, cool. So, we started they put the lyrics together and some melodies, and I wrote some other stuff to it. And the original version was actually an uplifting 138 track. But I actually, it kind of didn't, when I finished it, I was like, it doesn't have that right feel to it. So I ended up calling up a friend of mine, Demetrius, and I said, hey, check this record out. It's missing something, man. And he's like, yo, we just slow it down. Like, take it from 138 to 132, and then let's just change the bass line up. And so I was like, okay, all right, let's just change the bass line up. And then that's what we have today. So he really kind of took it to that next step for us. And so, the two of us then worked on the record together, and all three of us like, okay, this is a cool record. So we found that's kind of how it all worked out. I mean, I don't normally play 132, but actually now that with Twitch, we're doing these 5-hour sets, I can totally play that song.
Yeah. Very cool. And then I also heard, of course, your Castles in the Sky.
Yeah.
That was amazing. And that was trending on A State of Trance. Is that right?
Yeah, it got a tune of the week on State of Trance, I think twice or something like that. I forget.
I mean,
what it
did you
was.
freak out?
Yeah.
I freaked out, and I didn't even make the song.
Yeah. It's I mean, it's always surreal whenever your records get played on ASOT. Just in general, whenever your records get showing up on ASOT, you're just kind of like, oh my god, this is too much. This is crazy.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I got a record on ASOT, because I was actually at work. I was in the lunch line to get lunch, and I'm sitting on my phone. I got a text message like, "Hey, dude, you're on ASOT right now." I'm like, "What? What are you talking about?" So I flip over and I go to the live ASOT, and I'm like, "Dude, they're playing my song. What the holy?" And then I literally got out of line, and I'm kind of like off in the corner freaking out. Like, everybody's looking at me like, what the hell's wrong with this kid? But I'm like freaking out because like my song's being played on ASOT. And and when it was done, I was texting all my friends. We were sharing screenshots. I'm like, oh my god, this is so cool. And then lunch was over, and then the cafeteria ended, and I'm like, I didn't get to eat. Crap.
Yeah. And now I have to go back to real life.
Now I have to go to work. I have to go back to work, and I'm still hungry. What am I doing now? So.
Well, I would say that's a good reason to miss your lunch.
Yeah, well, hey, whatever. It was all good. So that was So it's always a moment whenever you hear your records on ASOT.
Yeah, that is super cool. So you're also kind of known for your mashups. How many do you have, and will they be released?
Yes. mashups and edits and stuff like that. I probably have an excess of like, well, now like 45, almost 50 of them.
Wow.
Um, yeah, I have a lot of them, and yeah, I'm releasing them very slowly. I never thought that anybody would really care. They were just fun for me, but people really seem to like them on Twitch. So, over time, I'm going to release them. So, what I said to everybody, I said, here's what we'll do: if you make a piece of art for the cover art for it, I will release that song. So
Oh, that's cool.
here's a list of them. If you submit to me any piece of, tell me which song you want, make a piece of art for me, and it's not about like me liking it or anything. It's about you liking it. So if you like your piece of art, then we'll put it on the cover and we'll release it out for free.
That's super cool.
So yeah,
That's
so
that's an
we'll
awesome
release
way
it.
to engage your fans.
Well, it's also like, like I honestly wanted them to be, I wanted it to be their record kind of in a way.
Yeah.
So, and it's always fun because everybody has a different idea of what the art should be. And I said, you know what, just make something you want to see. So,
Very cool. So have any been released yet, or are you still waiting for art submissions?
no, we had three submit. Well, I did one for myself to just kind of kick things off, and we had the first submission. We had two submissions already. One for King of My Castle, and the other one for the Clouds. Jason Harris, DJ Jason Harris, I think it was, and then Tifkins did those two. And I think there's some other people who are like eyeing it up, so we'll see.
Yeah,
Let them figure it out.
really cool. So another thing you're known for is your hats, and thankfully you're wearing one today, so that didn't sound like a weird comment. How did the hat thing come about?
Yeah, so the hat thing was a COVID issue. So I think when I started streaming, my hair, I had COVID hair. Like we hadn't cut it for, you know, what, 4 or 5 months at that point.
Yeah,
And I was like, oh, I really hate my hair. I just don't, it just looks like it's like a mullet thing. Forget it.
nice.
So I had this hat. This was like a Halloween costume hat.
Yeah, is it like
That I,
holographic?
yeah, it's a Back to the Future hat
Nice.
that I had for a Halloween costume ages ago, and I just like, it was in the closet. I was like, okay, I'll just wear the hat. It's fine, no big deal. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
And then people were just like, I love the hat. I love the hat. And I'm like, okay, I guess the hat's a thing now. I guess I'm gonna have to wear the hat all the time. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, the hat just became just part of the show, the brand. It just became a thing. So I was like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna run with it. Let's just go with the hat. It's the
That's
way it is.
awesome. So who are your current favorite artists and songs? It's probably
Uh,
hard to think of that on the fly, but
Favorite artists. I would definitely say Reorder, Mark Sixma, Armin, of course.
yeah.
I think one of my favorite songs recently by Reorder has been his remix of "Waking Up with You." I've almost played that, like, ever since it came out. I almost played it every single set that I've ever played.
Yeah.
Um, to the point where I'm like, I think people are getting sick of it, but not me. I love it. Uh, but it's such a well produced track. Like, it is insanely well produced.
Yeah.
Um, and I always like male vocals because it sort of, it says something to me in terms of, I know a lot of trance is very, very female vocal based and it's very angelic. I sort of like the real rawish kind of almost pop country kind of thing out of male
Yeah.
vocals. So I kind of gravitate toward that. Um, yeah, so I think those are probably my favorite artists at the moment.
Very cool. Who would you like to do a back to back with, like in real life?
Sean Tyas. No,
Yeah.
no, hands down. I just want to hang out with Sean, and like, we just need to get in front of the decks and have just a shitload of fun. That's what we need to do.
Well, I mean, you're halfway there if you're FaceTiming him on your screen.
Yeah.
Very cool. So you do a lot of awesome things on the side as well. You have a bunch of apps. Can you tell me about those projects? I know you've got the Now Playing app, which I just installed on my channel like 2 days ago. It was so easy and it's like the coolest thing ever.
Awesome.
And then you've got the push the button app and the Plamper app. So tell us about those.
Right. So Plamper.life it's a website you can go to where you can watch multiple streams all at the same time in one single tab. It was because basically I was just kind of going through a bunch of, I would have like 5 or 6 different tabs with different, different Twitch streams on them, and then figuring out, well, like, where's the sound coming from? And it was just maddening. So,
Yeah.
so I made that app for that. And it turns out to be pretty useful for everybody else. And you just basically can see everything in one tab. Now playing, that app kind of came about, because I think people were kind of like asking, what's this song? What's that song? And I got really, really tired of typing it out.
Right.
So, so I looked online, found other people who were kind of built something similar. And I built something for myself, to do it. And it kind of, I started it in March. And it kind of grew and grew, because I think one of the things was, Darude asked me, he messaged me on Discord once, and he said, "Hey, does this work with Tractor?" And I said, "Funny, you should mention that. I looked into that. It's not that hard to make work for Tractor." So that's when I added Tractor to, Rekordbox and Pro DJ Link and all that sort of stuff. So it all kind of came into one app. And eventually I just, thought, okay, maybe people really like this, and I see other people wanting it. So let me just polish it up and make it so that, people can just install it instead of just me having to, throw a lot of code in the computer. So I try to make it very, very easy for everybody to use.
Yeah, I mean, if I can figure it out, it's super easy. And I was able, with the help of another Twitch friend, I was able to figure out how to change the font and the color and all that kind of stuff. I mean, all that's in the manual, but sometimes I just need people telling me what to do.
Yeah.
And it's just so easy, and it's so helpful. I mean, even with just a few people on your channel, it's nice to just have that on the screen instead of having people ask every song what it is.
Exactly. I'm like, I don't want to type this. I'm already too busy, trying to look at the chat room and do this thing. So yeah, that was that. And push the button was kind of a fun idea. Just it's a custom version of Now Playing for myself, which it goes backwards. So you have the CDJs here. It sends the signal to OBS to tell you what song is playing. But the version that I use, it has a bot that's inside of Twitch, that's on Twitch, that watches people type in exclamation point, push the button, and then it goes backwards and it controls the CDJ. So when they type it in, there's this, the play button here. It actually controls one of the play buttons. There's 3 of them here.
Oh, that's insane.
Yeah, when they type it in, I have to tell the computer which one they control, one of these CDJs, beforehand. So I load up a song, get it ready, and then I tell the computer, okay, you're going to control this one over here on the right, number 4, and then the person types in exclamation point, push the button, goes through the servers, goes through the internet, and eventually it hits it and then controls this play button, so it presses play, and that's how it works.
Well, my brain just exploded.
Well, it's like above and beyond thing, right? So that they have some person come up on stage and they have all
I've been that person. I got to push the button.
Oh, you got to push the button. Okay,
I did.
So I saw that I keep seeing that on YouTube, and I'm like, what would it be like if we had the virtual version of that?
Yes.
On Twitch, and so that was where the idea came from, which is like,
that's so
we
funny
should figure out how to make that on Twitch.
Yeah, well, there's a couple streams I'm in, they play Walter White, and whenever I hear that song, I always think of when I was at EDC and they played Walter White and Bryan Cranston Push the Button. So whenever they play that song, I'm like, someone gets to push the button, and then I found out you had this app. I'm like, you guys, you've been doing this the whole time. So.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I think it's pretty unique.
It's very cool. Obviously a very skilled programmer, so that's awesome. So do you have any other events or projects that you're working on that you want your viewers to be on the lookout for?
So it's this Friday. So this Friday, which would be, for whatever you're watching it, is the 12th, February 12th. If you're watching replays of this later, it'll be probably in the VODs. So February 12th, I'm doing a back-to-back with my buddy Evan, also known as DJ Cheesy P. He's also a programmer. He's actually one of the bigger, he helped a lot with the Now Playing. He was actually one of the guys who actually got deep down into the bowels of all this stuff and figured out how to get the CDJs to talk to a computer. And so I used his library and his code to build a lot of that stuff. Um, and we both been kind of back and forth about a lot of this stuff. So he's been pretty instrumental in helping make now Martin Now Playing work. And he's a great DJ and he's super energetic, just like me. So we thought, for the launch of Now Playing, why don't you come over and we'll do a back-to-back set here. So that's that's February 12th. I think February 20 and 21st, we have my 100th episode. So that's a raid train. It'll start with, it'll start with me. We have we have a ton of guys we have Sean Tyus, we have Craig Connolly. We got a couple new streamers. So Davius Spray, he's going to be there. I think I think this is going to be his very first stream ever.
Ooh, that's exciting.
Yeah, it's exciting and it's also kind of scary because I'm like, okay, how's that going to work?
Yeah, I'm sure he knows how to raid out of it.
Yes. Yeah, well, we hope so. We have, we're bringing on a couple other streamers that I don't think have been on raid trains before. So Liquid Todd,
very cool.
one of them. Rain, he actually streamed on the Anjuna channel just like last week.
Wow.
So that guy's on a rocket ship. So super happy that he's on the lineup. Christina Sky's on the lineup as well.
Ooh, love her.
Yeah, she's a great girl. She's an amazing streamer. Has like an encyclopedia of music in her head, just insane. And a buddy of mine, a friend of mine, I guess he's a streamer, Buck Rogers. He's one of my personal favorites outside of the trance and electronic world. He's actually he's an open format DJ, but his streams are just absolutely out of this world. The visuals are super cool. He's super cool. His music selection is just amazing. Just a super, super great stream. So I'm happy to have him as part of that train because I kind of want to introduce everybody to that to other music.
Yeah, that's super cool. And that sounds like an amazing lineup.
Yeah, that's a fun. And then
so is it 24 hours then, or how long is it going to be?
48 technically. So it's 48 hours. At the very end of it, we're also doing open door sessions, which is actually a conference. It's a talk. It's kind of like TED Talk kind of thing.
Okay.
Where I'll be hosting and interviewing other streamers, Cheska Tunes, Miyuki, and shoot, can't remember the other name now. He's gonna kill me, but yeah.
That's all right, you're on the spot.
Yeah, it's all yeah. So we're gonna be interviewing them, asking them about them also getting on streams in 2020 and how it's really helped them and grow their following and their brands and all that sort of stuff. So I'll be interviewing them, kind of like you're interviewing me now. So
yeah.
And then we'll do and then I'll do the 100th episode after that.
Very cool. Very cool. So what is your do you have normal stream times and what are they?
Normal stream times are on Fridays at 8 p.m. PST and then Sundays at 12 p.m. PST.
Okay, cool.
So those are generally my normal stream times, twice a week.
And you play how many hours at a time usually though?
I always say I would play 3 hours, so it's always a minimum 3 hours, but I've never kept to that. I never kept to that.
Yeah.
I've rarely kept to it. So they might
because I wake up in the morning and you're just like, you've rated some channels that I'm modding in the morning, so I'm like
yeah. I think what was it last week? We went for like 7.5.
Yeah.
So, I would say it's a minimum of 3 hours. That's what I'm going to at least say. It's a minimum of 3 hours.
Okay, cool. And then lastly, I'm sure it's hard to respond to everybody in your chat. So is there anything you want your followers and subscribers and everything to know about you or about the stream or about what they mean to you or whatever?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's, I've never thought that any of this was even possible or it just nothing, none of this ever occurred to me, would have occurred to me. And so it wouldn't have, without the fans, without the chat, without all the support and everything, I don't know what I would have done in 2020.
Yeah.
So um, I especially think there's several people who I think who've really kind of helped me out a lot. Mystica is one of them that comes to mind. Dave Dresden, of course,
Yeah.
he's come to mind. He was kind of started this whole thing. Um, uh, Sean Tyas, he's been a really encouraging guy. Like when things, and because he understands the music business and he understands the streaming thing. So yeah, Tifkins, she's been in the channel for a long, long time, and just been pushing me and pushing me and pushing me. So it's always, so there's a lot of people there who are like, you know, uh, who this whole thing would not have happened without these people.
Yeah.
Um, and of course, everybody else who's been in the channel. Lamarias, for example, like just went nuts, and he's been a huge supporter. So, and there's a lot of supporters. I'd love to to say,
Yeah, the Twitch community, it's just it's a different, it's just different than the kind of support you feel, I guess, from what you would say is the real world, I guess. But the support here, I think, is just amazing and kind of unparalleled. So
yeah, it's we're all stuck in it together, to be honest.
exactly.
We're kind of stuck at home, so
Yep.
might as well do it together.
That's right. Okay, well, that is it for the interview today. Thank you so much for your time, and we will, well, hopefully, I guess we'll see when this airs, but we'll either see you for your 100th episode, or we'll be reliving in this chat today about how awesome your 100th episode was.
Okay, thanks, guys.
All
Thank
right,
you.
thank you.